Welcome to Shadows of Dawn.
So, welcome back to Shadows of Dawn. Today is another DM build. We're going to be building Session 4. This is for the Outsiders. And this mission is called Lost and Found. If you're watching, they've accepted a mission to go to Solomir, which is one of the more, how should we say, it's the, like the elves, the dwarves, gnomes. It's one of the cities there. They're going to help a wizard who has had one of her magic wands stolen. And she found out there is a lair out in the forest, but by herself she's not good enough to go and get it, so she's hired the adventurers to do it for her. So this is, in a way, it's in the forest, but it's a dungeon build. So, and with this one, I'm going to be doing something just only slightly different, because a lot of the previous adventures, I always felt that the players could finish the entire adventure in one go. This one maybe not, and they might, but they might not. So I have a little technique that I use in order to preserve the dungeon, especially when you're running more than one group. So I'll show you. But first, let me show you the dungeon. It's a very simple dungeon build. It's nothing too difficult. And even here, I'm using, kind of a quick dungeon maker. It's a random dungeon generator. And it makes things like round rooms. Well, we don't use round rooms a lot, but I do have some rounded corners and things since I use the Dwarven Forge. It may not make a perfect round room, but we will improvise, and that's just kind of part of dungeon building. So, that being said, this is Lost and Found. Let's go ahead and move over to the table. Alright, so the first thing you notice, you see a high glare right there, right? Well, that is because I'm using plexiglass. These plexiglass trays, and I have 4 of them on the table, is what I'm going to build on top of. So I'm going to build on top of these guys so that I can easily pick it up, and then way over in the corner of the room I have a storage cabinet where I can just slide them in if I need to preserve any part of this dungeon. So I may be able to even take some of it apart if they're only left with kind of a corner. I like these because you can see right through them, as you can kind of see on the camera. You can still see the grid. The only thing you really kind of get is maybe some of the glare. But when I have all sorts of stuff on here, it'll really cut the glare down a lot. So this is one of the techniques I'll use, plexiglass. Pick it up at a hardware store. You can get it cut. You just got to be very careful when you do cut it so it doesn't splinter or fracture on you. But for the most part, what I do is I just line it up with the grid. And then, of course, I'm going to take my map, and I'm going to try to orient my map, right? So my map is kind of going this way, and I have these lined out this way, so I'm just going to rotate it as such so that I can start the build. And looks like we will start with room 1. Room 1 is where they come in, and it's a descent into room 1, meaning they're coming in from the roof. Because basically what they'll find is a hole in the ground. So one of the things I always like to try to do is figure out some of my widths. And I have room 1 and room 5, which is pretty much the whole width of this dungeon. This is 1, this is 5. I know you can't see the numbers. But what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to position room 1, which is the furthest this side. And then I'm also going to try to position room 5. But to kind of know the width, room 1 is 10, 20, 30, 45. And if you've been watching, you notice a lot of times these things generate in 5s. Well, one of the weird things about Dwarven Forge is their rooms are always equals of 10. So we have to improvise. So we got to decide, does room 1 need to be 40 or does it need to be 50? Well, in the module that I have, room 1 is more of an entry zone. There's not a lot of combat. So I'm just going to go ahead and make room 1 40. So I don't, that's extra tiles I don't have to place out there. Room 5 seems like it's only about 5 feet away. So I could really run this right to the edge. And if I want to extend this corridor just a little bit more, then I can. So then I'll have room 5, which is 10, 20, 30, 40, 5. Room 5 has combat, so why don't we go ahead and make room 5 50 feet wide instead. So if I make room 5, and this is really just me kind of measuring out the dungeon. You can kind of see room 1 and room 5 here. There you go. So if I'm kind of looking at this, I have room 1, which is, they're both 45 feet wide, so I made room 1 40 feet wide, and I made room 5 50 feet wide. And so if I turn it, and then I kind of look at the dungeon, I have a little separation there, right? Pretty easy way to do it. So if I want to continue room 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, hey, that one's actually 50 feet long, perfect. Yay, random dungeon generator. So I just make room 5 50, through a corner on it. Now I kind of have my outer shape of room 5, right? And if I want to see what that looks like compared to room 4, well, room 4 is 10, 20, 35. We shortened it 5 the other one way. So why don't we lengthen it 5 this direction? This may cause a little bit of an issue, but it'll be fun to show you kind of how I work around that issue. If it does, it may not. Some of you are already thinking it's like, oh yeah, how the rooms link up. That would be correct. It would be how the rooms link up. That would be part of a possible issue that you can have. There we go. And it looks like room 5 is coming in right on a corner. And if you've been with me before, you know we have special doors that can fix that. So, let's go ahead and flesh out the rest of room 1 here. And room 1 is going to come right to a door. Turn those guys in. And let's see, here's our flat terrain. Lots of flat terrain. So when we have doors and walls, we simply use the little flat terrain piece because the door helps finish up that wall. And I'll show you here what that looks like. Pull out a few doors. I know I might need some of the skinny doors. So if I pull out some doors, you'll notice this door I'm showing you, it's kind of wide, right? So this one fits perfectly, right on top of a flat piece of terrain. It totally seals right in. This door, and if I show you a regular door, and I show you this door, you can see this door is a little bit smaller. And this door is built for when you have an instance like this. I'll get the camera kind of close up on it. So when it's a narrow entrance, because I'm using 2 wall pieces, that door is built to slide in an angle just like that. It's one of the advantages of those types of doors. Okay. So yeah, kind of got those 2 rooms laid out. Now I can really attack this almost any way I want, right? So if I want to attack it linearly, I can go like this, right? So we have a corridor. Well, we always have the option with corridors. Random dungeons generally build it with very skinny corridors, which in a way is kind of realistic. And for the most part, I like to obey that because, well, player paranoia is always a very fun thing. I know I'm off camera right now, I'll get right to you. But Dwarven Forge does make the narrow passages. So these have, it's a little bit of a wider space, but it's gridded so that it's only one space or one character at a time. So that's the way they build that grid, right? So this one comes off and it has a corner piece. Can you see that on the camera? No. Let's go ahead and move this guy here. Kind of see where this is going. Well, let's move our camera out here. Give him a big turnaround. There you go. So you can kind of see this is the narrow corridor, right? So it's going to come off the door. This is a corner piece. So it's going to turn a corner. And it needs to come, we're looking at the map, just down, have a door pretty much even here with the first room. So that would be even with the first room. And if I want to put a door there, I can. And what I will probably end up doing is putting the door on the inside. But this is where I'm going to need some of those corner pieces. Now, Dwarven Forge does make rounded walls. The one thing about them is they're on kind of a 10 by 10 curve. So your curved walls, you know, you can make a perfect circle, but it's just going to be like a 20 by 20 room. So that's not going to work for us. We need more room. So let's go ahead and just start a door here. And this room, we kind of have it gridded out, is a little off center. So if we want, we can do that just by kind of making the middle, there we go, 20 feet wide, right? And then we can off center it like that. But if we want this to kind of have it's going to be more of a rounded box and less of a pure curve. So it makes this room, which was supposed to be 10, 20, 35 feet, it's going to make it 40. And it's just going to have kind of rounded walls instead of being a perfect circle. And that's okay. A lot of dungeon building, and the reason I do these videos is to kind of show you that adapting, it's fine. Once the players never really see this unless they watch the videos, and then they know that, oh, that's what you did. But when they're playing, they'll have no idea. And it doesn't really ruin anything. Only maybe a perfectionist DM, but might want to get over that one because none of us are perfect. And let's see, it has a door here on the outside. But one of the things I noticed when I was building this is a lot of times when you're playing with terrain, you got to kind of play to how much you have. Now, I do have a lot, and I could probably make it work, but you know, I don't want to work that hard on it. Because prepping a dungeon takes a lot of time, hours, things like that of work. Let's not make it any more difficult on us than we really have to. So we do have a corridor coming off of here, and it looks like it's going to drop down and make into room 3. So one of the things I like to do, this being room 3, it's kind of this square room right here in the middle. I kind of hold that up. You kind of see that room 3 right there. So I got to come down here. I got to make to room 3. Room 3 kind of jigsaws back to 4, but instead of jigsawing, I'm probably just going to do a straight, just a curve. So room 3 is going to be kind of awkward. So what I want to do in this instance is I want to actually go ahead and just build room 3 and then make the corridors work. And the reason I am doing this is if I back this up a bit, you see the plexiglass. I have a corner here. When I pick up this plexiglass, I'd really like the rooms to stay kind of intact. So I don't want to build across 2 pieces of plexiglass. I'd like to stay on just one if I can. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but other times, for the most part, it just makes picking it up and moving it a lot easier. And any decoration that you give to those areas, it's less chance that it might roll off the plexiglass or fall somewhere, and we don't want that. So room 3 is designed to be 10, 20, 35 feet. We're just going to make it 40. That's, once again, making everything easier on ourselves. right? And so right now I'm building, you see I'm building right across the very edge of the plexiglass. So room 3 will stay in this quadrant. And I got a place here for where the door can go. And I need another place on the other side for where that door will exit. And speaking of doors, I'm probably going to need a lot of doors. Dungeon builds tend to need a lot of doors. It's a good thing I got a lot of doors. Throw some extra doors in there. Alright, voila. So, room 1, room 2, room 3. If you kind of look at the map, room 1, room 2, room 3. It kind of goes over to room 5. And if you notice, room 3 does have another door down here. So I can take that off. It is in the corner, but see, I'm going to offset so I don't have to have dual doors that are sitting here in the corner the way this map really wants you to. I guess I could if I wanted to, and if you did, you would build it like this. And in fact, it wouldn't be so bad. Well, let's go ahead and do it. Alright, in this case, we just have to use one of the small doors. Like that. Right, so we can kind of keep the same continuity as the map. Not that I think it has any, it doesn't have a lot to do with the quality of the dungeon or anything. I don't think there's anything secret about it. But yeah, let's go ahead and we'll use the narrow passage set as long as we have pieces. Which is generally the whole hiccup with narrow passage set. And this one shouldn't be much of a problem, but I can instantly see that I'm off, I'm shifted somewhere, even with the grids. It might be just because my grids are just a tad overlapped somewhere. Sometimes following the grid works pretty well, sometimes not so well. And usually you can find out where you're off just by kind of going back over it, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So, let's see. And then sometimes, if you're off by like 5, right? So the whole here head just started off by like a shift of 5. And that's enough to kind of throw off your whole gridding system, right? So I'm just going to shift this all up by 5. And a lot of it is because when the generator generated the map, they generated the map with 5s, right? So 35, 45, things like that. And when we're modifying, it's going to be off. So in this case, I'm just really bringing this room, I'm going to bring it over 5 feet, which is fine because it moves it off that wall over there too. Right? And what may happen is we may have to make the connecting room to room 5, shift another 5 feet, maybe the opposite direction. We'll see here in just a second. Once again, just make things longer and shorter as you need. Because, like I said, players don't see that map. They're not going to see it at all. Not until they watch this video. Then they'll see it when they watch the video. They'll be like, oh, I see what you did. Okay, so now we're going to merge these two doors. And like I said, with those two doors, it looks to me that, yeah, I will probably need to bring that in one direction one way or another. And this may actually cause us to shift our entire side. Not a big deal. One of the things about Dwarven Forge terrain is you can just kind of move it around as you need it. Right, so if I want this guy like right flush against that seam in the tile, this is going to have to make here, and I'm going to have to make that there, right? So inevitably what this means is everything on this side just kind of needs to go one square that way, which is fine. Since I didn't start at the very edge, another safety tip, I make everything move just kind of one square diagonally and just shift around as I go. I'll just kind of take that room, push it one square diagonally, that room, which this one brings it right to the edge. So it was a good thing I started in the middle. And if not, I could have shortened this hallway, so, which is not a big deal. And this, and I want want that door to come right here. In fact, I could shorten the hallway. I could take that out. I can move that there and turn this into a very short hallway. Or I can lengthen the hallway on the other side of the grid, which is what I'll probably do if I want to keep the length. But it also lengthens the hallway on this side as well, right? So now I need to add another piece here. Just lengthen that hallway. And for room 5, yeah, you can see room 5 here. Oop, caught the camera. Made my dex check. I'm just going to move that back. Insert a piece here. Nicely done. If I say so myself. Yeah. That works pretty good. The only thing I don't really like is I don't really like how that one hallway is right jammed up against the other wall. This double wall here. So what I'm going to do instead is I want to lengthen this one. So I'm going to bring these out just to kind of separate that wall, which means I'm going to have to kind of redecorate these guys. We'll use a corner piece here. And then I will just use a flat terrain piece there. You can kind of see that. There we go, that's a pretty good angle. Right, so I'm going to take the wall out. I have an open area, right? So I'm just going to use the flat. Drop that in there. Line that up with the hallway. Close this hallway off. Or lengthen it, I should say. And then now just tiling. Placing those tiles into that room. Done. It's all broken tile. Kind of gives it a little room effect, but we have stuff. We have some stuff for that actually. Right? So there we go. Ta-da! Alright, so one of the things about that room over there is we do have a secret door. Now I do have the secret door mini for the train. It's very cool. So, secret door, it actually turns. Right? I can put it there, but if I do put it there, it becomes super noticeable to the players. Players are like, oh, I'm going to search right here. So what I tend to do is I'll just kind of put it off to the side, and I'm going to cover it with something. So the fog of war, that way, if they find it, I'll just swap out the wall pieces so it looks really cool inside the game, inside on the terrain, on the map. Right? It'll look cooler that way. But what I want to do is, I want to make them work. I don't want to give it away, if you will. But I do have a long hallway there, and so what I'm going to do is check my pieces over here of the narrow passage set, and I do not have a lot of hallways. In fact, I only have one little narrow passage one left, right? So in this case, we're just going to have to do the wider hallways, the 10 by 10s, which are basically using. Lost my microphone. Which are basically using the just the regular wall pieces, and the regular wall pieces. Regular wall pieces are basically 10 on a side. So in a way, it kind of makes a faux 20 by 20 hallway. At least that's what you'll see as far as the natural width. But you can also kind of deem it a 10 by 10 hallway with just like a little 5 side lip, right? So if you're looking at it, I'm gonna put, right, the secret door is going to be there in the middle, right? So it creates an extra wide hallway, right? You have these little half squares that are here. So in a way, it's almost like a 15-foot wide hallway with walls. It's okay. Whatever you do, you just kind of have to modify, if there's a trap, let's say you have a trap in the hallway and the trap says it's only 5 feet wide, well now you just have to make it 10 feet wide, or 15 feet wide rather, wall to wall. Not a big deal. Once again, players want more. Uh-oh. So this isn't so bad. So I come and you can see, if I back this up, you can see how the seam is on a 5-foot square. Don't let this defeat you. You don't have to be this perfect. If I had to pick this up and move it, it just means I need to pick up these two little 5-foot pieces of wall and move them. So I'm not going to work. I'm just going to build right across it for now, because that's not a big deal. It's not like it's an entire room. With a hallway, I just got to pick those pieces up and move them out of the way. It's more important for me to actually build, you know, the rooms intact than it really is like certain hallways. This is a long hallway, and I'm not sure how far it's going to go down just yet, but it does need to go down a ways. There's actually a trap in this hallway too, so we'll definitely make it interesting should they find this one. So we're just going to leave that there for now. Bring the camera back around here so you can kind of see the whole width and breadth of it. That is a super long hallway. That's the best place for me to put you. There we go. We're going to bring you over here. So you definitely get a lot of view space. And there we go. Because I'm coming this direction. So it's room 5, and this is the long hallway. So room 7 is right here. Room 7 is not immediate to room 3. So I do want to kind of position room 7, and room 7 is going to be a room. It looks like room 7 is going to have to break across possibly my terrain here. Now I can move my hallway over. I have about 5 feet, which I can shift it if I really want to. But now let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. So room 7 is a corner piece. And room 7 is supposed to be 10, 20, 35 feet wide. Well, in this case, I can make a 30-foot room, but let's see what impact that has. So I go to my module, right? I got my module all printed out. And in room 7, when you open the door, let's see, there's 3 torches and sconces. 2 small, odd-looking creatures stand near a table, poking a small cage and laughing softly. These are boggles, by the way, which basically look like golems. Or Gollum, like from Lord of the Rings, looks like Gollum. So boggles. The rest of the room, so it's not a difficult fight. These guys are really small guys. Basically, there's a pixie in the cage, and it's a chance for the PCs to help free this little pixie. So I'm just going to cut it from there to, I'll cut it to 30 foot wide. And I might even cut the length too, right? 10, 20, 30, 45 feet, so just make it 40 feet long. Put all these extra corners over there, still have tons of corners. I'll need one corner because the doorway is going to kind of be on the side. So the end is 10, 20, 30. Actually, 30. That's 40. 30, 40, sidewall, 40, and more sidewalls, that's for sure. Sidewall, and looks like I'm going to need a door on this side, and I'm right at the edge, so you can kind of see the seam line right here, so I'm right at the edge. So we're going to take the door off the corner and place it there, and this will mean we'll need a small door here, and it also means I'll need a large door here. There we go. Small cozy room. In fact, I'm not going to do the passages yet, because you know, if you see on this one, room 7 is supposed to be like really tucked up this way. But again, because of the seams, and I don't want it going over the seams, I don't want that overlap. But I am going to go ahead and just push this to the corner of the 4 corners of the plexiglass. So that means this hallway is a little longer than expected, and that's fine. And this one is not. It also means I'm seeing a little 5-foot offset, which is something we may have to deal with when we kind of connect these rooms. So that will be interesting to see if we can do it. We may just have to push it back this way and just kind of keep that separation as is. In fact, I'm guessing ahead, and so I am going to keep it flush because both of these are supposed to enter kind of in the same manner. In fact, if I put those there, and I need a small door. One of the cramped doors. Always need more doors. Get it? More doors. Yay, Lord of the Rings jokes. A little too early for them, probably. Alright, so this is supposed to be another round room. And kind of where I'm at, I can make it work. In fact, I'm still going to need this door piece, but I need to use a wall piece before I use the rounded piece. So this door still is going to go in there. In fact, actually, because I have a full square, even though it is on a half, I can use a full door. One of the small benefits of being able to do that. And this door, this room is roughly the same shape, except the roundness is supposed to come across here. Right, so these two are supposed to kind of be in the same spot, and they're not. So how do we do that? Well, one of the ways, which is easy enough, is to go ahead and I can make this instead of perfectly round. Well, it won't be perfectly round. I can move the door over, which is probably the best bet. Take that out, use a corner piece. In fact, it will move this in a bit. So those two are going to be right up next to each other. And then use this piece here as the door. As such. And in fact, if I want to kind of do it more of a front to back style, then I can leverage. So whenever you end up with a back to back wall, you can do this if you wish. It does help, but for room setting, I find it's sometimes better to go ahead and use the back to back walls to give it a proper setting of thickness, which a lot of rooms, it can kind of throw off maybe some of your building, some of your style, if you will, if you end up just kind of circumventing that, cutting it. You'll see like how this one wall here just kind of feels smaller, and that's just because of that. So in this case, I am not wanting this room to be this big. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make this room a little funky. And so it only has 3 rounded corners. I'm going to move the door here. And a lot of that is basically because Dwarven Forge doesn't have a 5-foot wall piece where I can just center that door. The only way it would do that is if I were to use a double door, which is a 4 space wide. But we're just going to say that these builders were not the greatest builders in the world, and they did what they had to do. So blame the builders. Not the DM, of course, in-game. And actually, I find a lot of times, sometimes just strange shapes and not perfectly symmetrical shapes are often, kind of cool. So there we go. And as I look at this wall, I'm seeing how this is more of an open room area. So instead of using that wall piece, I am just going to use a flat piece in that area. Make this room a little more open. And for all intent and purpose, actually, I could shift. No, I can't shift it because if I do, it'll go across the seam, and that's what I'm trying to avoid, actually. Cool. So there we go. So now we have some interesting, problems. which we may address as we start to build, right? I need to go from this room here to build out this room here, which is very much this direction on this side, right? So what I will use is, I actually have one more narrow passage, which I'll use to jump the seam, right? So I'm going to use that to jump the seam over here. And there's only one door, so that being said, I'm going to use this as the sidewall, and this is room 4. So room 4, I can already see I'm probably going to have to split room 8 because I'm looking ahead. I'm going to have to shift all of room 6 that way. Well, the other thing I can do is I can take that whole side of the board and move it that way as well, just lengthen some corridors. In fact, I'm starting to think I should do that before I move too far ahead. Because what I need is I am going to come back and replace here to reposition that there, because I do need that wall set back, which lets me take out this entire row of this room, which was a little bit longer than it needed to be. Close that up like this. And then I really want to take this whole thing and move it that direction. So literally, I'm just going to grab and push. Right? So, yeah, it's going to shift a lot. So, lots of things are going to change. But really, I'm just kind of changing this area over here. And I'm changing this room over here. Leave that there. And I'll grab and push that there. And 1, 2, 3. So 2 squares. So a couple of ways I can actually handle that solution there. And I will need a door. I still had one of these, so I am going to use that. But narrow passage has a widening doorway. So it kind of widens just before it hits that doorway. Right? I'll bring this over and kind of show you. As I drop this in here, all it does is it puts 2 squares right in front of the doorway. And so it's a good way to kind of continue a narrow passage and then open it just in front of the door. So I can do that anywhere if I need to, right? It's like I kind of prefer to keep them narrow, but it does come with a couple of those. There's not a lot, but it does actually help maintain, continue a path just in front of a door. Wet the whistle. Okay. Let's come back to this problem we are dealing with over here. Once again, trying to get our dungeon to conform to a map. So, if we look at this. Alright, so I have room 6, which is here. I have room 7, which is here. I need to build 8 and 4. So I have an area here. Let's go ahead and just know that we're going to need a doorway right there. So I'm not sure you can see that on the map. Let's move this back a little bit. Okay, so I just put this doorway in. So this will come to room 8. And then I have room 4, which needs to be over here. And 7 also comes down to 8. So, let's see, which bad boy first? So room 8 is supposed to be 10, 20, 35 feet wide. Let's see what's in room 8. How big? Oh, room 8. Room 8 is kind of the decisive room. It's kind of a big room. So let's not mess up room 8 too much, if we can. Because we only have 10, 20, 30, we have 35 feet wide here. And I really don't want to shove that another 5 feet over. We're just running out of spaces. 30 feet's not too bad. It's kind of a tough fight, and it's actually short distance if in the module. So creatures from some of the other rooms could come and help if need be. So let's do a quick inventory check of our narrow corridors and see what we got. Not much. Not much at all. So we are going to have to double wide corridors somewhere else if we want to make these narrow corridors. Decisions, decisions, decisions. Well, let's start here. I'm going to take this one, and we're just going to make this section here double wide. So we need a corner. Corner. So this is always a little bit tricky. That's a double wide corridor. Yeah, you always have to go kind of one extra. And in fact, you have to move the door there kind of to a weird, if we're looking at this, kind of have to put the door in a weird side angle just because of how we have to kind of make this work, right? The only way to really make this work likewise to have both of these doors just kind of on an edge of a corridor. There we go. This is usually the best you can do with kind of a double wide corridor. And that's okay. It is what it is. It's never really perfect. Except we have that weird thing going on there because we have a rounded wall. So we are going to go ahead and just shift this all over one, which just means we got to lengthen that side one. Put this in here. So we do that. The other option is to just maybe eliminate, we can eliminate this one and make this one a double wide. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look. Sometimes when you're here, the only way to figure it out is to just take a look. And we'll take a look and see what we can do. Right. So if we were to double wide this one, and so we got to put that in there. And that there, and you're going to need to at least be a couple off. That would go there, that would go there. Yeah, and this is probably actually a better fit. And I can use the wall space here just to give it space. In fact, that probably is a lot more cozy than what this would be. And yeah, there's a tiny gap, but you know what? We can fix that with terrain. Just take a little terrain and wedge it in the gap. Dungeon mushrooms. So, that way the door is right there. The only way they can't really get into this little gappy corner. The door's out, right? So this gives us our terrain pieces back in order to make this corridor kind of the way we really wanted it. Just one down, one over, and 1 and 2. Much better. I like that aesthetic a lot better. This also is going to give us some extra pieces over here to use. Down here in this area. In order to make this little turning corridor here. So I'm going to come off one. And it looks like I need a corner. Which I should still have. I'm hoping I still have it. If I didn't, I had a way to work around it, but I did. I have that corner. And I just need to kind of come into, in fact, this is a very short hallway. How come you guys? Oh, I see. Over just 5 foot square. was just looking and I saw that everything was kind of shifted off the grid a bit. And that was probably just due to the camera kind of helping shove things off grid. Not a biggie, all fixed. So this is going to be my room 8. So let's go ahead and start making the room 8. In fact, room 8, I can even have a little corridor there, so they have to funnel in. I always scare them like that. This will be the corner of the room here. And yeah, looks like my walls are going to work out just fine. More time. More time. There we go. I can make my room 8 just a little bit longer. There. In fact, I could switch these if I want this piece coming straight in. Put the more open door there. That way they can't get too wide as they come into the room. I'll limit them on that. Let them really choke on it. Final room. Back that up. There you go. So room 8, the doors on the outsides of room 8, so they do have to kind of funnel through the little hallways first. It's always good for paranoia. So yeah, I like that. And now we really only have one last room. We got this guy over here, room 4, which is one of the ones that they can kind of search offset through through here. So once again, we will just use 2 little things there to just kind of straddle. Simple corridor. In fact, I can actually do it like that. Really, I'll set it just a bit. Just another technique. How to kind of just use a turning angle so I can get that side wall there and that one as well. Because this, once you're through the door, you're really in the room. But I'm going to make kind of a little entryway into the room, right? Because I don't want that room to be built across a seam. I really want the seam to separate this room in case I have to do anything with this room. So this room is 10, 20, 30, 45. So we'll go ahead and make this one 50. And the reason I am is because, and I've mentioned this before, using the game table, you know, I kind of want action in all the quadrants of the table because I want all the players to, you know, have the minis kind of near them at some point in the game. Because at some point in the game, this guy who's sitting way over here is going to have to get up and go play over there, move his mini. So later in the game, I want it to kind of do the opposite, right? Just make it nice for all the players. Little convenience. Some of those little things to think about when you're setting up. I know a lot of games don't think about it, unfortunately. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. This is a 50 by 50 room. And I'm going to go ahead and set, this is my secret door piece. So I'm going to go ahead and set that here. And that way it'll be covered by the fog of war. So players won't really be able to see it unless they actually find it. Is the structure solid? Like it. And I'll always pull out the map and double check, count off the rooms as we go. So Got room 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now look at the whole dungeon there. Not too bad. Rooms are done. Very nice. Now kind of comes the fun part. After let me show some of these pieces, get these all out of the way. Because yeah, the next part is putting the stuff inside the rooms, and that's always like that part. It's like fancy yourself an interior decorator. That's cool. Ah, actually, you know what? Look, I just found this, so I don't have to make an entryway here. I can make just a straight across. Awesome. Surprise, surprise. See, when you clean up, sometimes you can surprise yourself. Nice. Like it a lot. Let's put those away. Put that away. Not gonna need, don't think I'll need these doors. I think I have all my doors set. That's a good thing. Alrighty. So, in this case, what I always like to do is break out. I'm just gonna start over here at room 1. Let's see, just kind of got my camera here in the middle. And really just kind of go through the room 1. I read the descriptions to myself. So this is a hole in the ground, which is about 10 foot diameter, and they have to kind of rappel down in here into this room. Light bounces around the carved stone. Walls have some overgrowth vegetation. Dirt covers the floor, as does leaves, and a single door as an exit. So we're going to do some rubble. Put some rubble in there. And we have these kind of broken stone pieces. I'll use some of that. I'll use another. Maybe that's not usually what's on. Let's use the vegetation. Use the vegetation. Maybe a little extra vegetation in here. And let's do some skulls. Make it a little ominous. There's some skulls. And a little more vegetation. Doesn't have to be anything super fancy. In fact, I have a couple of little bitty vegetation pieces. They're super tiny little things. I just want them around the exterior of the room so that they, let's put this big guy over here in the corner, put a small one here. So that when they fall in here, they're like, well, they won't fall. They'll probably discover the hole. Don't count on anything, but then they can drop in and it'll just be a little ominous. Very easy to decorate. We do have a trap here in this first hallway, and it is a hidden pit trap. So I do have some trap tiles, and there we go. So I do have a hidden pit. So this one I'll just have to kind of put on top just to simulate. But what I'll do is I'm actually going to take this, I'm just going to put it right here, just kind of in the middle, or I can hide it behind me with the DM and just as a fog of war. But nevertheless, when I read through here, I want to pull it out. I want to pull it out so that, I know I'm going to need this, right? Whether I do it with the secret door and hide them together or whatever I'm going to do, I want to pull them out so that I know that I'm going to need to set those aside so I'm not trying to look for them while everything's going on. So we come into room 2. In room 2, there's going to be a couple of fey creatures. We have vines all growing along the walls. There's some small holes in the ceiling letting light in. Some potted plants. So this is, it's kind of an underground little plant area. So I don't want to make it too overcrowded, but I do want to put some vegetation stuff in here. So I can have more of those cave terrain type features that I just threw out there in the previous room. But at the same time, I don't want it to be a big area, so I'm actually going to use this, and I use this for impassable terrain. So you can kind of see that. So it's like impassable terrain. They can't really, you're not supposed to be able to get through it. And I just put some other things here and there. Anyway, it just kind of gives this room more of a vegetation-like feel. So it is a little crowded. The creatures here are very small. And in fact, they're working. So since they're working, I always I have boxes, bones, and barrels. Just a couple of boxes, like little cracked barrels. Just kind of can set those near. Put another one over there. In fact, I'm just going to put a barrel. I'm not going to put a barrel in the first room, but I'll kind of put a few around here, and maybe a box in the corner, just a crate. So if they're working on something, you know, they're fake creatures, they like the plants, they're growing them, tending to them, you know, that's how they can get water or plant food or whatever they want to do. In fact, in this, there is a pot, and I believe I have an iron pot somewhere. There we go, found it. Oh, iron pot. There is, if they look in the pot, there is nightshade in the pot. So if they want to dabble in poison, then they'll have that opportunity to dabble in poison. And possibly poison themselves, which is always hilarious when they do it to themselves. So let's move on to room 3. And you can kind of see this starts to go pretty quick. Decoration is fun, but at the same time, it doesn't take very long. So look at room 3, and room 3 is dark. You see your room walls also kind of covered in vines. The floor is covered in vines and muck. There are 3 doors in this room, that is correct. And this room seems unremarkable. Okay, the only thing in this room, so there are some things in this room. There are some blights, but the blights need some kind of vegetation and cover. So this is where I'm going to drop, I will drop a few more of these little mushrooms kind of in the corners. Some more of this vegetation stuff. Actually, we'll put one, I'll put it dead center. Let's put it just a little off to the side here. And maybe another one right there. We're not going to block the door, but that's good enough. Just break up that room. And the little needle blights are basically hiding inside of that vegetation. Let's see. The room 4 is our room down here. Room 4. Pull that back. Let's see. Room 4. Open the door. It is dark. They hear chattering sounds. Oh yes, this is our gibbering mouther. The room itself is covered in blood and filth and bones. So we have bones. We don't really have blood. We donate some. I'm going to spread the bones around. I am going to put some barrels, maybe a couple of little boxes in here. Maybe somebody came in and they died, and any more bones. And there we go. Just kind of break that up. Let's see. There is bones loosely spread about, as are the remnants of fleshy decay, and the blob-like creature with eye stalks and toothy maws chattering away with gibberish. Awesome. So, not a lot really to do to this room, because we don't really have blood, and this room is supposed to be kind of empty. Like, the bad guys don't go in here, because this thing's in here. It's kind of nasty. We can always throw, sometimes I just like to throw these in corners, webs. And players are always like, is that really a web? Yeah, There's a blood splatter. Maybe I could paint one red. And call it blood splatter. That might actually be kind of cool. An idea. Put some bones in there. Put a chest in the other one, so they get really paranoid when they see the chest. All right. Room 5. That is our room way up there in the corner. Let's look at that. So room 5 is dark, devoid of random vegetation. There are several plants which are spread around the room, and the floor is clean. A sconce is along each wall, but no torch burns within. There is a single corpse of what appears to be a halfling laying near the northern wall. Nice. And there is a Grell in this room. Gotta love Grell. Let's see. So I do have a corpse token. I gotta walk around the table so you can't see me on the main camera, but on this camera, I do have a corpse token. Love these little corpse tokens. I think I've got a lot of them off of eBay. Picked up like 10. Very seldom do you need more than 10 bodies, but 10 bodies, right? Does want vegetation. Let's see what I can do. I do have some very loose foliage that I have picked up, and in fact the thing didn't say anything about broken ground terrain, so I have some of that, right? So I have some of these broken ground pieces, and I have this very loose kind of vegetation, which I can spread around, and I'll use these broken ground terrains to do the same thing. So once again, I gotta walk around the table. This is a huge table, by the way. So some people ask how big is it, and it's like, well, it's 8 feet long by 4 feet wide, and then it has trays, so players might sit back another foot or two as needed. Put some broken terrain in here. Let's loosely cover some of that vegetation. You see, it just kind of gives it a little something extra just by putting just some of this loose stuff in the room. Very loose stuff. Nice. Like it. Yep, keeps that room kind of simple, but adds a little something to it. Alrighty, so now we go back to our trapped hallway over there. Our very long trapped hallway. Let's see, what is it? There's a pressure plate with poison darts. Nice. Don't really have to do much for that. Darts just comes shooting down from tiny holes at the other end of the hallway. So let's go to our room 6, which is kind of our little semi-rounded corner room over here. Pull this back and get room 6, 7, and 8 all in one shot. So room 6, small hole in the ceiling making this dimly lit. Vines grow across the walls and down. There are 2 doors in the room which you entered. And in the torchlight, you see something shiny tangled in the vines. That's just a silver comb, a little piece of treasure they can find. But there's no monsters in room 6. So if I do anything with room 6, I can decorate it maybe just a little bit. I don't want to do too much in room 6 because I don't need to. Maybe somewhere somebody will make some kind of dangly vines or something. But I can just add a little piece of vegetation, add a little piece of broken terrain, just kind of to the edge over there. So not doing a whole lot. I'll go and put another vegetation in here. Actually, let me put that one in that corner. I'm going to put this one in this corner smaller. Just for a little decoration, unless I need them somewhere else. So that's room 6. Room 7. Open this door, a couple of torches in the north wall. So this is the boggle room. So this is the one where the 2 boggles are playing, standing near a table, poking a small cage, and laughing softly as some sort of firefly darts back and forth. The rest of the room looks like a storeroom of sorts, but with miscellaneous things: chairs, boxes, barrels, crates, pots, bowls, and other house furnishings and knickknacks are haphazardly stored. There's also a painting that hangs on the south wall that is decorated with ribbons. Okay, nice. So, this one, I always kind of like doing the paintings. Let's see here. I've used these before. I've talked about them before. These are little glass tiles. I'm trying to see if I can find one. They're great for mirrors, but there are some other types that have glass on them as well. Right. So I'm going to show this. I'll show over in the camera, so I'm holding them. But mirrors, and they're just little tile samples, right? So I use the mirrors for mirrors, and I use these tile samples for paintings. It's just something colorful. And then I use the ever invaluable sticky tack. And I just kind of ram it in there. And I'll take a wall piece, and I'll just mash, and it sticks. And so that's why I can do a painting, just to show that there is a painting on the wall. Put that in there. And it said I needed a table, so let's go ahead and get a table. I have some old tables, and I have some kind of cool tables. I'll use this cool table. There's a cool table. Boxes, barrels, crates. Have those. Have barrels, boxes, crates, and spades. And we're just going to kind of junk this room up a little bit. It's not supposed to be like, not supposed to mean a lot. You even have this little keg. It could just be water, but PCs are going to ask, is there beer in there? And it's haphazard, so just making sure we spread these out. Not drop them. I'll get the camera over here so you can get a better idea of what's kind of happening there. See what's happening. Let's see here. And I do need something that looks like a cage. Let's see, I got a little floor sconce. I have some torture device stuff. Like big cages. And a rack. And we might just have to mimic the cage somehow. But I do have some knick-knack stuff. In fact, I'll go ahead and put a bookcase in here because it said like house-like furniture, right? So we'll throw that in here. In fact, let's throw that one against this back wall over here. Put these in here. Let's go ahead and put this rack table over here. That's a little torture device. Not that anybody's on it. Got a floor sconce. Just put that over here in the corner. Doesn't have to be lit or anything. But yeah, there's the 2 boggles that are torturing the poor little thing on the table. And let me take one last look at something. Let's see. Let me see if I had something like a small picture. Oh, I do need some chairs. Some chairs in the room. Here we go. I'll use this. So it's just a little blue vase, but that can be the cage. This definitely gives them something to pitch against, or to see. And I'm just kind of grabbing. Said I needed a few chairs. There we go. Some chairs. They don't necessarily need to be around the table, so they're just kind of scattered about, right? There we go. Nice, I like it. Done. Next is all right, a last room decorated, torn tapestries. There is a bed. I have a bed. There is a small table. And there we go. I have a small table. Okay, small table. Large black cauldron. All right, D&D, if there's one thing you really need to make, it is a large black cauldron. There's little bitty black cauldrons, which I found, but a large black cauldron is still missing from your collection, D&D. There's witches and stuff. So whiz kids, you're probably better off to. You're probably the ones that end up doing it. We need the witch's lair, whiz kids. We have a small black cauldron. There is a foul-smelling odor, but there is a chest. So I'll make sure I have a nice chest mini. Actually, I have these kind of cool ones here that have the detachable lids that I like a lot. They've got cool little detachable lids. They have a little green in them. And of course I want some skulls. I want some skulls. It doesn't call them, the description doesn't say it, but this is the boss. The BBEG. And of course the hag, which is a green skinned woman who's brewing at the cauldron and hisses at them when they come through. So okay, let's start working on the hag's lair. So I'll have that in the middle, I'll have the cauldron. Let's just offset it just a tad. We don't want it to be perfectly symmetrical. I'll put the bed back here in this corner. We'll give her a nightstand. I think I have a nightstand somewhere. Let's see. Small side table. Oh, there it is. Found it. Found a nightstand. Put that there. Let me put the chest back here. Of course, we got to give her some barrels, broken barrels, and maybe a couple of little boxes. Just gonna make them normal looking like crates. So these are like, is that a chest? Is that a chest? Is that a chest? Because that's what they'll do. Put some skeleton decorations here in the corners. Put some of these loose boxes around the skeletons. Some barrels are maybe along this wall. And maybe a bench. Just put a bench along the wall. Should probably put stuff on the bench. And just leaves little jars and knickknacks sitting on it. And I have these little stools. I'll put these little stools out there, just a couple of them. Those stools don't have to mean anything, they're just decoration. But I do have this little bitty tiny keg. It's our nighttime keg. We'll put that on there also. And we are done. Decorated. Love it. Let's give her some mushrooms. They're right next to the, they're magic. Magic mushrooms. Magic mushrooms for the witch. Alrighty. So, that being said, Now it's kind of time to fog of war this, right? So, need to get some of this stuff out of the way first. So a lot of people have always asked, how do you fog a war on tabletop? The short answer is bed sheets, because they're very light, and if you do them right, when you lift them, you can kind of lift them in quadrants. And I'll show you what I mean. So first, I am going to just move these away because I do want to do a little something extra here. And since this is an underground setting, but this underground setting takes place in a forest. And so what I want to do is I want to give some forest ambiance to the whole setup. And by giving that just kind of ambiance, it just adds a little flavor to the game. So I have a couple of pieces of terrain, which are kind of wooded, if you will. And the best thing about these is these are aquarium. It's like for aquarium setups. I'm really just placing these in just some spots around the table. Just because I want the table to feel like it's in a forest. I want that forest feeling. Want that forest feeling. Oh, that forest. Yeah, I know. You don't want me to sing. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean anything, but it means something. It really, with the, which is part of the reason I use the green mat. By the way, and if you're watching, Mats by Mars, guys. These Mats by Mars are awesome, and you can get them in all sorts of different sizes, and all sorts of different type terrains. They are top notch, and it's a good thick heavy vinyl, so they're not going to tear real easy or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, if you just look at that, it looks a whole lot better just by adding some of the decorative terrain around the sides. So, done. All right, so let's fog of war this guy. And let's see. One. So I collect my bed sheets. 1, 2, 3. So the biggest thing with these is the biggest thing for fog of warring your terrain is always start from the back, work towards the front. Because when you layer, you can layer things on top because it'll be easier to pick up. So always work back to front. So you may not be able to see me on the main camera, but I am going to start here in the back. And you'll be able to see as I kind of fog of war from room 876. I know, 5309. So, and I'm not really worried about if I get the trees in or not. That's not a big deal to me. Although I will probably leverage this guy here, just because he helps lift that fog of war. So yeah, I'll be able to reveal the hallway, and then I'll be able to kind of reveal to here. And then depending on which side they go, I can peel that side back as well. But I want this to basically cover the entire hallway here. And I need to make sure I get my camera out from underneath it. There we go. Done. So then I'm going to kind of cover 5 and 4 with the next terrain. And let me adjust my camera. Oops. Stepped on a speaker cable. Moving my camera around this way. There we go. So 5 and 4. These sheets are really big, and I used it's like a navy blue. So the navy blue, when you lay it down, it is opaque. You're not going to see through the navy blue. You won't be able to see through that at all. Coming back around to the main camera. Oops, microphone. Yeah, so let's just kind of little hallway here. Cover up kind of room 5 and 4, or 5 and 3 technically, I guess. Yeah, 5 and 3. The 4's down here. So 4, he's kind of an odd duck on his own. So what I'm going to do is I will take this black one, which is heavy, and since there's nothing in that room that's really kind of sticking up, I'll just use this kind of heavy blanket to just kind of drop on here. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have 3 on top of 4. So I'm just going to lift that guy and drop 4 down underneath. Let's see if I can give you a better shot of that. So I'm lifting up this one here so I can drop this one down because I'm going to reveal 3 first, right? So 3 just basically needs to come to the door so they can see the door there and know that there's a room. All right? And then last but not least, room 1 and 2 in the hallway beyond. So again, I got a lot of sheet here, no pun intended. And fold that up a couple of times. Or maybe not. I can spread this one out a little. But I want to start back here. I'll cover that seam up. And I can just go over this right here. And done. And now everything is covered. If you look at the fog of war, I mean, you can see some plants, and I can actually add some peripheral trees now if I want to, just to give it a little more ambiance. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll just scatter these out a little more. I'll put, just a couple like way out here. Just kind of in some of the far corners, and then a few that are up here in the front. Kind of hard to see on the camera, but I'm just kind of decorating the front of the map, just up here in the front. So if you're looking at the entire game table, now you can kind of see that is the whole table. A higher view, but it is covered nicely. And that's it, ladies and gents. That is set. That is root of the problem. Come back here and just kind of summarize up. So it didn't take terribly long, but that's basically how I would set up that kind of a dungeon crawl using the plexiglass. So if they don't finish it in one session, I can just lift them up, move them off to the side, and then bring them back with minimal reconstruction, for the next session afterwards. I know there's going to be some pretty good role playing going on, so I'm iffy whether they'll finish this in one go or not, and that's okay. Just one more time to look. This was the this is the map. A couple of places there, 1A, 5A, where I have some traps. But all in all, that's it. Thanks for being with us. I appreciate you guys. Just give us a like or give us a follow on Twitch, and these will also be posted on the YouTube site. So check us out. Feel free to check out the Shadows of Dawn Figma site and the Facebook group. There's links everywhere to find them, our merch store. So appreciate all the support. And you guys have a good one. And we will see you guys later. Thanks.